About a week ago, GoPro introduced their new flagship action camera, the Hero 7 Black. And the one feature they're very much wanting you to know about is their new stabilization that is as good as a gimbal. But is that really the case, or is it just marketing at its best? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Josh here with Daily Mountain Bike Rider, and today I want to talk about the new Hero 7 compared to the old Hero 4 in a gimbal, and how GoPro is saying this is making it so you don't need to use a gimbal anymore. For those of you who aren't familiar with my channel, I do document my mountain bike riding experiences as well as make how-to videos, but you'll see in a ton of my videos point of view perspective of me using this setup right here, which is an Evo SS gimbal and a Hero 4 Black without the case on it. This has kind of been the gold standard for mountain bikers because the audio is super good on this camera, and the gimbal allows stabilization that gives a real true feeling of a trail while not being shaky at all. So when I heard that GoPro was coming out with this new Hero 7 that has stabilization that's just as good as a gimbal, part of me thought that this just wasn't going to be possible. But then I looked at their site and there was one video that really got me. This video is showing a mountain biker going on some of the biggest jumps in Whistler Bike Park on a trail called Crabapple Hits, and it looks just as smooth as a gimbal. So after seeing that, I had to run over to Best Buy, pick up a Hero 7 with my own money, and give it a fair test and see if it actually works. Now, just so you know, I put the same settings on this Hero 7 as I use on my Hero 4 with a gimbal. And these settings are pretty typical to really showcase a mountain bike trail well. So I use 4K, 24 frames per second. I set the ISO at a max of 800. And besides that, I put almost everything else on auto. The one thing you should note is that I do film in Superview because I feel like it gives me a wide shot and really shows speed. So I put all the same settings in the Hero 7. The only thing I changed was I added their stabilization. So I put it on my chest mount just like I do my gimbal, and I went out on a ride. And the first thing I had to test was climbing uphill. So here it is.
First up is checking out the climbing. Now I feel like climbing is going to probably be the best video because my chest is staying about the same spot. Now, I am bobbing a little bit in my pedal strokes, but overall it stays pretty consistent. And I'm guessing even on these tight turns, you get pretty good views of what I'm riding. So far, so good on the climbing. I'm going to check back in at kind of a cross-country trail where you're pedaling and getting out of the saddle next. So see you there. Woo!
Going uphill on a mountain bike is a slower speed, there's less wind noise, and there's less movement, so it really should be a winner. But the real test came when I started pedaling harder, going up and down off my saddle, and even going down jumps. And what I found shocked me. Check this out.
All right, just got into a trail called Cedar Dust. And this trail is gonna be a great tester trail because my saddle is gonna be all over the place. It was down really low for features like that. Now I have it raised and it's gonna be pedally. There's some skinnies up here. What I'm really curious about is the gimbal is always looking straight. It follows the horizon, so whether I'm in a climbing position like I am right now with my saddle really high, if I click down to a mid position and start stomping on the pedals, the camera's always gonna be pointing at ground level. Something like a skinny, my back's gonna be a little more straight. So I don't know how that's gonna play into it. Let's see. Almost didn't finish that skinny to show. But that's the kind of stuff like this that I'm really curious, how's a camera without a gimbal gonna act?
And of course, I had to go down some jumps in a jump trail just like the one I saw in the video on GoPro's website. And here's what that looked like.
Get some pedals in. Oh yeah. Very fast. It finally works. It finally works. Oh, there's a case. There's another case. This is cousin.
So after testing the Hero 7, looking back at my footage and comparing it to all my other footage I've recorded, I have a couple main takeaways. First up, GoPro is not telling the truth in their advertisements about what their cameras can do. I think this should come as a shock to nobody if you've ever used a GoPro and compared your footage to the ones they put on their website. They do a lot of post-production, and because of that, their stabilized video, I feel like, is not direct from their cameras and in fact has some after effects in post-production to make it look even more stabilized. Number two, and this is something they don't really talk about, is that while this stabilization is better than a Hero 6, it in no way compares to a gimbal. The main reason is that a gimbal, no matter what axis you're looking at, whether you're pointed downhill, uphill, turning left and right, it's going to keep a very even level of recording. Whereas even with their stabilization, the GoPro is a slave to where my body points. So because of that, if I'm shaking up and down like this, it doesn't have the same gimbal action that's going to keep the camera steady. And the third thing, very much lesser known, is that the audio on these Hero 7s just aren't good. The audio has a membrane over it, over the receiver, so that it can be waterproof. And because of that, if you compare this to any of my other videos or other mountain bike YouTubers who use a Hero 4 audio, you're going to hear that it's almost tinny. It sounds like the audio is almost covered by like a plastic membrane. Overall, if I'm honest about my review after looking at the Hero 7 footage, I'm straight up disappointed and if not a little upset at GoPro for saying this camera is the new flagship, for saying this is going to be just as good as this, when in fact the footage doesn't lie and the benefit isn't there at all. In fact, after editing this footage for a while, I got a little nauseous and a little bit of a headache from looking at it so much. So what am I going to do? I'm going to take this back to Best Buy and tell them that it didn't do what it said it would. And I'm going to keep using my gimbal and my Hero 4 Black that has the same 4K ability that is way smoother. That's just my review and what I found in testing this footage, but here's what I encourage you to do. Pick up a Hero 7, check it out yourself, and see if stabilization will work for you. As far as riding a mountain bike on a trail, just isn't what it should be. Until then, thanks so much for watching. You know what time it is. Don't watch too many of these videos, whether it be me riding or reviewing a camera, but get out there and ride your bike. Make sure you do it every single day.